evening. As you might have seen last night on the AFKN Late News, an honor guard ceremony was held yesterday on Knight Field. A ceremony which served as a tribute to an organization that has helped keep peace on the Korean Peninsula for 38 years. AFKN's Julie Glenn has more.
The United Nations Command celebrated its 38th anniversary with a ceremony held on Knight Field. The event was hosted by Commander-in-Chief of U.S. Forces Korea, General Louis Minatre, and the Command Sergeant Major of U.S. Forces Korea, Command Sergeant Major Ralph Phillips. Honored guests included representatives from the 9 nations that make up the United Nations Command. On July 7, 1950, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution to place 16 allied nations under a unified command headed by the United States. That organization became operational on July 24, 1950, and was known as the United Nations Command. Its mission was to help resolve the Korean conflict, and its commander-in-chief signed the armistice agreement that brought about the truce that remains in effect today. In remarks made during the anniversary celebration, Minatre stressed the continued importance of the United Nations Command and its mission.
Our objective remains that of preventing a renewal of war on this peninsula, and by also being a symbol of the international determination that this republic has a right to exist and its people have a right to choose their own path into the future, free of outside interference.
The mission of the United Nations Command is unchanged and ongoing after 38 years, Minatre said, to deter war on the Korean Peninsula and maintain the viability and credibility of the armistice agreement. Specialist Julie Glenn, AFKN News, Yongsan.
Elsewhere this Tuesday, the first AIDS-related court-martial in the Army resumed today with Private Adrian Morris standing trial for allegedly exposing 3 other soldiers to the AIDS virus. UPI reports the 28-year-old Morris is charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of sodomy, and 3 counts of bringing discredit on the military. If convicted, he could be sentenced up to 17 years in prison, a loss in pay, demotion, and a dishonorable discharge. Authorities claim Morris had unprotected sex with 3 fellow soldiers, 2 females and a male, all after he was told he had tested positive for AIDS. Morris hasn't shown symptoms of developing AIDS, and his alleged victims haven't tested positive for the virus. Earlier, Morris pleaded guilty and chose to have his case heard by a circuit judge rather than a jury of officers and enlisted soldiers. U.S. Air Force officials in the Philippines have released a statement that reveals that an Air Force sergeant was shot and killed last night while jogging near Clark Air Base. The AP reports the statement identified the victim as Tech Sergeant Richard Blackmer of the 1961st Communications Group. Blackmer was allegedly shot while jogging in the Mountain View subdivision of Angeles City, about a mile from Clark's main gate. According to base spokeswoman Captain Mary Ellen Janik, initial reports indicate the shooting was criminal and was not politically motivated. Well, like many great inventions, the helicopter has proved its merit. As its design has changed over the years, the uses for this mechanical wonder have increased. Tonight, correspondent Cynthia Knapick reports from Daleville, Alabama, on the men and women who fly these lean machines.
Okay, and we should be coming up on a P River down here somewhere. There it is. Oh, okay,
Helicopters play a major role in our daily lives, bringing us instant news and traffic reports, fighting crime, and transporting the sick or injured. Many of the pilots got their start in the military. 34 years after its beginning, the Army's aviation school at Fort Rucker, Alabama, still turns out some of the best aviators in the world.
It's really important because of the air mobility concept of it. You're able to take soldiers in and out of areas quickly, and you're able to extract them from pinpointed areas. Like they can land in a small area instead of building an airfield and trying to haul them out on a normal aircraft, fixed-wing aircraft. Flying the helicopter it's pretty difficult. It takes a lot of coordination, and it also, well, it's draining. You know, it's physically tiring, but, you know, as we learn to control them more and more, it'll become, you know, more or less natural, almost like riding a bicycle. You know, the more you do it, the more accustomed you are to flying it. I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to maybe making a career of the Army. They provide an excellent means of, you know, continuing your education and they certainly push you and put goals in front of you that makes you want to really strive and reach out and dig a little deeper and see what you're made of. So I think I'll stick with it and enjoy it.
The unique abilities of the helicopter make the people who fly them and the machines themselves indispensable. And the aviation school at Fort Rucker is keeping the pace to train the pilots of tomorrow. Reporting from Daleville, Alabama, I'm Cynthia Knapick.
Many cases of spouse abuse in the military go unreported. The usual reason is fear. Fear of job loss, fear of security, fear of social reputation. However, with the growth of social awareness in the military today, programs like the Family Advocacy Program allow spouse abuse couples to get the professional help they need. At Yongsan's South Post Chapel, a seminar for the Family Advocacy Program was held for facilitators from areas around the Republic and Japan. The facilitators will take what they have learned from the seminar and instill the program's ideas into their community. The speaker of the seminar, Dr. Peter Neidig, explains the program and the treatment that couples receive.
Family advocacy is the Army's effort to address domestic violence issues among their personnel. So in this particular training, we're focusing primarily on violence at the interspousal level. During the program, people receive treatment in several different areas. They receive treatment in the area of anger control. What we found is that many of these people have difficulty in controlling their emotions and more specifically anger. They receive treatment or training in stress management, communication skills, and then perhaps most importantly, how to apply those skills to resolving conflict in a nonviolent way.
Dr. Neidig added that spouse abuse is more apt to occur overseas due to high job stress and cultural differences. Well, last week on the Korean Newsline, we reported that the inspection of water trailers have increased because contaminated water had made some soldiers ill. That part was true. However, we incorrectly reported that the illnesses occurred at Camp Indian. That's where we shot most of the story, but in fact, none of the soldiers who got sick were from that installation. Well, still ahead this Tuesday evening, the return of Jeff Cunningham with a look at our weather. Jeff?
Well, most of the rain today was confined to the southern half of the Republic. It looks like tomorrow maybe a little bit of sunshine for those in the northwest.
Good. Besides Jeff's weather, we'll have our bi-weekly Olympic update segment with our own Larry Wilson. Tonight, among other things, we'll see how some new, old-fashioned Korean sailboats made their presence felt on the Han River. We'll have that and more when the AFKN News Hour for a Tuesday continues.
PACAF Entertainment presents the stateside sounds of the Names. The Names will be performing at various Air Force bases throughout Korea through August 13th. For showtimes in your area, contact your local club.
Good evening once again. Today, most of the northern half of the Republic got a break from the precipitation that has plagued the nation most of July. This afternoon, some light rain started to fall in the Camp Humphreys and Osan areas, but it was relatively harmless, and with the exception of the East Coast, the rain never made it further north than Osan. But for the southern half of the Republic, it was steady rain for most of the day, and it wasn't just all light stuff. Daegu, Busan, Jeju, and Gwangju all had periods of moderate rain, and Pohang in the southeast had some periods of heavy rainfall. Rain was also reported today as far north as the Camp Lawn and Kunsan areas. The rain will continue in the south for the rest of tonight, and we can see why as we look at the satellite photo from earlier today. That frontal boundary that has caused so many problems for the Republic this month has actually moved south during the last 24 hours, which would be good news, but that low pressure cell on the boundary has strengthened and started to track to the northeast, and that is why the southern part of the nation received the brunt of the rain today. During the afternoon, the rain started to creep north a bit, but it mainly stayed in the eastern half of the Republic. The rain will continue in the south tonight and into tomorrow, with just a chance for some light spotty rain in the northwest part of the Republic tonight. Tomorrow, skies will be mostly cloudy to cloudy in the south and in the east, but by afternoon, skies will become partly sunny in the northwest part of the nation as that low moves east. However, later in the week, the front should creep back north, so there's a chance for some more rain then. For a look at the weather over the rest of Asia, well, if you wanted sunshine, you had to go all the way south to Hong Kong. The skies were sunny there with a high of 92. It was also 92 on Taiwan, but under cloudy skies. To the east, Kadena Air Base was a hot spot with 93 under partly sunny skies. Cloudy skies reigned over Clark Air Base in the Philippines with rain showers and some isolated thunderstorms. As a result, the high down there was only 79. Over the rest of Asia, mostly cloudy to cloudy skies prevailed as well. The temperatures over the Republic today were mainly in the mid-60s to 70s. However, Camp Casey was a warm spot once again as they hit 84. The low this morning was 63 at Daegu. Due to the denser cloud cover along the east coast and in the south, temperatures only made it into the mid-60s to low 70s there. Temperatures in the northern part of the Republic made it into the 70s. For tonight's forecast, expect mostly cloudy to cloudy skies across the nation with rain for the southern half of the Republic and the eastern part. Winds will be from the east-southeast at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Lows will range from the low 60s to the low 70s. For tomorrow, continued mostly cloudy to cloudy skies for most of the nation with light rain for the southern half of the Republic and the east coast. But by afternoon, skies will become partly sunny in the northwest. Winds will be from the east-southeast at 5 to 15 miles per hour with gusts to 20. Highs will range from the upper 60s to the mid-80s. And the outlook for Thursday is for mostly cloudy to cloudy skies, rain probably in the south. It looks like the rain will get back up here on Friday and maybe into Saturday.
Haven't seen the last of monsoon season 88 yet, huh?
No. I've spent 2 weeks out in the field with the folks at the 7th Aviation Brigade, almost 21 inches of rain, and so I hope they've dried out a little bit. I know it's been good to be back into the dry weather again.
Glad to have you back. Thanks, Jeff.
Sure.
See you tomorrow. And now with a look at what's making headlines this Tuesday evening, here's CNN's Pat St. Clair.
In the headlines, wildfires force the closing of a section of Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. The picket signs are still up, but negotiators for both sides in the writers' strike are at the bargaining table with their federal mediator, demanding results by midnight Pacific time. President Reagan says if Iran is willing, it's time for joint talks on freeing the American hostages held in Lebanon. And Iran's foreign minister arrived in New York for UN-mediated talks aimed at ending the 8-year-old Gulf War. Iraq's foreign minister arrives Tuesday. With the headlines, I'm Pat St. Clair.
In Korea news tonight, locomotive engineers of Korea's National Railroad went on strike today, bringing most train service across the nation to a halt. Yonhap reports it was the first time for the nation's railroad system to halt services because of a strike in its nearly 80 years of operation. Representatives of locomotive engineers and railroad management continued talks through the night, but failed to reach a compromise on improved working conditions for engineers. With the engineers on strike, USFK officials have issued a travel advisory to personnel traveling on TDY, permanent change of station, or on leave orders. You should all plan ahead to use other means of transportation to arrive at your destinations on time. For more information, you can contact your military travel office for information and assistance. In other Korea news, President of the opposition Reunification Democratic Party Kim Yongsan has indicated that North Korea may make a dramatic decision in mid-August to participate in the Seoul Olympics. Yonhap reports Kim Dong-young, the RDP vice president who is currently visiting the U.S., had reported to the party that the North may announce a dramatic decision to take part in the Games on the occasion of Korean Liberation Day, which falls on August 15th. Kim made the decision Kim made the report, to the party in a phone call Sunday from the States after he met with a senior U.S. government official. Meanwhile, on the flip side of that, Yonhap reports the U.S. State Department denied that one of its senior officials said in recent meetings with lawmakers from the Republic that North Korea may announce its participation in the upcoming Seoul Olympics, in a dramatic departure from its earlier decision to boycott the Games. State Department spokesman Charles Redmond told reporters during a press conference that the U.S. government had no information indicating that the North might participate in the Seoul Summer Olympics. Redmond was commenting on some ROK media reports that claimed that a senior U.S. Department official mentioned a possible North Korean announcement by August 15th of its decision to take part in the Seoul Games. Well, speaking of the Olympics, tonight on the Korea Newsline, we continue our series titled Olympic Update, designed to keep you up to date on the behind-the-scenes preparations, the people, the participants, and everything and anything else involved in the 24th Olympiad. Tonight, AFKN's Larry Wilson joins us once again as the Olympic countdown dwindles down. Larry, what do you have planned for us this Tuesday evening?
Well, Mark, as promised, we're going to tell you where to find a hotel room for your relatives during the Olympics. We also know how many USFK personnel are going to receive opening and closing ceremony tickets. But first, let's look back to a time when the only ships on the Han River were powered by the forces of nature. And shortly after the turn of the century, of course, the machine boats replaced the sailing ships. However, Saturday there was a noisy pre-Olympic dedication ceremony to welcome the silent boats back. AFKN's Joe Connelly has the story, unfurling the sails on the Han.
The banks of the Han River shook with the sounds of gongs, bells, and chants of a shaman ritual. The Mudong, or shaman priestess, prayed for safe sailing, calling on spirits to protect some new ships. But these 5 ships are neither new nor innovative. They're reproductions of century-old sailing vessels. The ships, with their wooden hulls and yellow canvas, will contrast against the modern shores.
They could see the ancient style boat on the Han River. Everything is new on the Han River, the boat and the building alongside the Han River, but the old sail boat is quite old one, so people like it.
The ships were constructed using old blueprints and tools. The ships had hit some troubled water early on when questions were raised about their seaworthiness. But the ships have proved themselves and the city government relented. And once again, sailing ships will ply the waters of the Han River. The 5 will participate in the Han River Festival this September and October. Airman Joe Connelly, AFKN News, on the banks of the Han River.
Dating back to the ancient summer games of Greece, cultural and artistic performances have always been a major part of the Olympics. And the metropolitan city of Seoul is keeping, even enhancing the tradition by sponsoring a diversity of events. The Han River Festival, beginning September 10th, will be staged at riverside parks near Yeouido to include traditional Korean dances and mask plays. Also, a major international food fair is planned. Many international performers are on the entertainment list. Jazz great Herbie Hancock, country music's John Denver, and rock's Elton John will perform at various times during the 21 days of festivities. With the hundreds of cultural performances taking place, it seems assured this year's Summer Games won't be remembered as just a great athletic event. And the newly opened Seoul Arts Center is one place where these events will be happening. Mr. Kim Soo-dok, managing director of the center, explains what performances are scheduled in the month of August.
With the forthcoming Olympic Games, we start the series of cultural programs from August 17th. And we have International Choral Festival, in which 5 foreign nations participate. For example, St. Olaf, a team from your country, and Canada, West Germany, Japan, and Brazil, and Korean chorus team.
With some 240,000 foreign tourists expected in Seoul during the Olympics, a major concern is the availability of accommodations. Seoul's major tourist hotels have long been booked up, including 2 hotels still under construction. News about this has spawned fears that there are no rooms left. However, the mayor of Seoul assures visitors that accommodations are available.
Yes, there are plenty of rooms available, so no problem with regard to the accommodation facilities.
In a further effort to alleviate fears of a hotel room shortage, ads are running in major newspapers telling readers that thousands of rooms are still available, as we hear in this report.
Over 300 yogwons have been designated by the Seoul metropolitan government to accommodate the foreign visitors during the Olympics. In September of 1987, the city government created the small hotel or yogwon reservation center to handle the reservations. Reservation manager Mr. H.C. Lee explains how the reservation procedure works.
Every applicant should come to my office and then fill up the application form and then pay the deposit. Then we'll assign one of the small hotels and then let him know the confirmation notice, and then they know which hotel is assigned.
The reservation center is located in the Korean National Tourism Corporation building in downtown Seoul. The number to call is 778-4188.
Luxurious tourist hotels they're not. But these Korean-style inns, called yogwons, are very acceptable alternatives. In fact, facilities-wise, there's not much difference between yogwons and major tourist hotels.
Yogwons are similar to Europe's three-star hotels and the motels in the United States. They come with their own bathrooms with hot water, central heating and air conditioning systems, telephones, refrigerators, and even color TVs. And there are certain advantages of staying in yogwons.
Yeah, first of all, the advantage is the room rate is very inexpensive, and then located very convenient area near the Olympic stadiums.
The daily room rate ranges from $15 to $25 US. About 60% of the yogwon rooms are Western style. The Western rooms are provided with double beds, while the Korean-style sleeping arrangements consist of a mattress, quilt, and pillow, which are spread on the floor. About a third of the yogwons have their own restaurant, but even if they don't, there are restaurants nearby. If you know of anyone concerned about finding a place to stay during the Olympics, you can assure them that there isn't an accommodation shortage. In fact, as of this broadcast, there are about 6,000 yogwon rooms still available. Airman Cheri Anliker, AFKN News, Seoul.
Another question on many people's minds is about tickets to the opening and closing ceremonies. To put our minds at rest, here's AFKN's Rich Young with the latest on the ticket issue.
Winners for Olympic opening and closing ceremony tickets have been announced. For the 20,000 tickets to each ceremony, over 900,000 applications were received. The drawing held last Wednesday took almost 14 hours to complete. USFK members submitted 477 applications, requesting some 1,100 tickets to the two events. Out of that number, 31 of the applicants were picked winners, receiving a total of 50 tickets. The largest number of winners were from the Yongsan area, which submitted the largest number of applications. Leroy Collins, staff director for Army Tour and Travel Centers, explains when winners can pick up their tickets.
Probably not until the middle of August will we actually have the tickets for the ceremonies. Now, we hope to receive a refund back from the Korea Exchange banks and post offices sometime later this week. Once we receive the refund, then we will start processing refund applications to the individuals.
Collins says that they'll be calling winners when they can pick up their tickets, and also they'll call those who are to receive a refund. Airman Rich Young, AFKN News, Yongsan.
Making Seoul a fitting host for the Olympics has been a major project undertaken by the city government. Billions of dollars have been pumped into beautification programs, one of the most obvious of which is the redemption of the Han River.
And Mark, on Thursday night on our Olympic update, we'll have AFKN's George McNamara, and we'll take a closer look at the Han River and how it's been given a new life and a new look.
Okay, good enough. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Larry. We'll see you Thursday. Well, although these next people haven't qualified for the Olympics, Carmen Brunn, Bruce Fisher, and Michael Nelson were all winners during the first ever 8th Army Swimming Championships held on Yongsan. The Stars and Stripes reports all three took first place honors in the 50, 100, and 200 freestyle races. Brunn's victories gave her the ladies' championships, while Nelson won the men's open division title. Both of them are from the Yongsan area. Meanwhile, Fisher, who's stationed at Camp Casey, took the first place trophy in the men's senior division. Bodybuilding is a sport that is quickly gaining popularity, especially in the military. It's a sport of both power and grace. Serious competitors lift a lot of weights to build up their muscle size, but they are also judged on the finesse they use to display their muscles and their definition. This past weekend, bodybuilders around the Republic ventured to Kunsan for the chance to flex their way to the title of Mr. or Miss Kunsan. AFKN's Pete Casiano reports.
And muscles is what the crowd got at the Seabreeze NCO Club on Kunsan Air Base this weekend as the Fitness Center staff sponsored the 1988 Mr. and Ms. Kunsan Bodybuilding Championships. 5 women took the stage first in an open division pose-off. Ms. Butler from Yongsan took the award for Best Poser, but her antics weren't enough to keep the woman with the best abs, Kay Williams, from winning the Ms. Kunsan title. In the men's lightweight division, Ronald Ferguson from Gwangju electrified the audience in defeating his opponent for a shot at the Mr. Kunsan title. With 7, the middleweights had the most competitors and the most well-rounded group. And after only serious deliberation, the judges named Osan's James Irwin as the king of the 154 1/4 to 176 pound weight class. Moving up to the 176 1/4 to 198 pounders, Kunsan's Mike Sidner defeated his 3 opponents. And in the heavyweight division, it was the Wolfpack's John Rose showing experience and poise as he claimed his shot at this year's bodybuilding title. In the final pose-off, the crowd was behind the lightweight champ, Ron Ferguson, and his bigger opponents knew he was the one to beat as they tried to screen him from the judges. But their efforts failed as the 150-pounder was named Best Poser, Most Muscular, and 1988's Mr. Kunsan. Fresh from his victory in the Mr. Osan Championships, Mr. Ferguson said he was anxious to show everyone he was for real in the sport of bodybuilding.
I spoke to a competitor yesterday and he told me I have to come hard if I want to win, and I did nothing but that.
The Beefcakes weren't alone in enjoying the evening's festivities. The contest proved to be a full night's entertainment for the crowd that packed the club's lower ballroom. I'm Air Force Sergeant Pete Casiano, AFKN News, Kunsan.
In other sports news, 7 members from the Korean All-Star team have been selected to attend the training camp for this year's PACAF women's slow-pitch softball team, which will represent the region at the Air Force tourney slated for July 31st through the 6th of August at Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida. The Stars and Stripes reports All-Stars Kathy Artley, Beverly Hester, Carol Armacost, June Robbins, Stephanie Bean, Alyssa Harkness, and Leisha Wells were all selected to attend the camp in Osan. Speaking of which, one PACAF sports official said that 14 players will make the cut and represent PACAF at Tyndall. The selections came after last weekend's PACAF championship at Osan, in which Anderson Air Base Guam took the title from Korea's All-Stars by a score of 3-1. Speaking of motorsports, the Korea Newsline has learned that the Young Pony League baseball squad representing the Far East Military All-Stars, or FEMAS, was victorious in their first game of this year's Pacific Zone Pony Championship tourney in Honolulu. The FEMAS squad nipped the host team, the Pacific Police Athletic League of Honolulu, 4-3 in getting off on the right foot. Their next game is tomorrow against the Chinese national squad. The Ponies are one of 2 FEMAS squads taking part in the tournament. The other team, the FEMAS Colt League squad, was eliminated after losing their first 2 tournament games. They are due to return to the Republic tomorrow. Well, finally tonight, a reminder that you can join us in about half an hour right here on AFKN TV for National League Baseball excitement as the NL West league-leading LA Dodgers face the San Francisco Giants. That's tonight at 7:30 on your Sports Connection, AFKN TV. And that's our report for this evening. For more, you can join Rob Osmond tonight after the ball game for a Tuesday edition of the AFKN Late News Hour featuring Nightline. I'm Sergeant Mark Cummings for Jeff Cunningham, Staff Sergeant Larry Wilson, and everyone here at AFKN. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
The AFKN News Hour, a production of the American Forces Korea Network. In touch with your world.